Chesil Beach, a sabre curve of tawny shingle running without a break for a distance of almost 18 miles. The longest shingle beach in Britain. Chesil is one of the geological wonders of the world. In all, about 100 million tons of shingle have been thrown up by the sea, forming this bank 15 metres high and 200 metres wide. Currents of the sea have sifted and sorted the shingle over the years, so that at one end of the bank only large pebbles are dumped. As you go westwards, the stones get progressively smaller, until at the other end they're only this size. It's said that the variation in pebble size is so marked that in the dark, smugglers could tell just where they'd landed simply by looking at the shingle size. Behind this natural barrier and protected from the gales that sweep in over Lyme Bay, lie the sheltered waters of the largest tidal lagoon in England, the Fleet. These hollows, or cans as they're called, are where the sea seeps through at very high tides or during storms. They seem to act as sort of safety valves, so helping prevent the bank being breached. This barren-looking bank of scrunching pebbles may look a pretty inhospitable habitat, but here on the sheltered side, plants can take a precarious hold. One of the most successful is shrubby sea blight, which thrives on the strand line, where rotting refuse, flung up by winter tides, provides essential nutrients. It and other plants have developed extensive root systems, which reach deep down into the shingle, tapping the rain and the moisture produced by condensation within the bank, as warm days change to cool nights. The shingle plants look far too frail to withstand such harsh conditions. This one with its long, elegant seed pods is the yellow-horned poppy. Its hairy leaves help protect it from sea spray, and they also collect moisture. This one's edible. It's sea beet, ancestor of beetroot and spinach. The larger leaves are best cooked just like spinach and served with a knob of butter. And these smaller leaves are delicious in salads. As plants bring life to the pebbles, so they attract animals. Here, a short-tailed field vole seeks refuge in the carpet of sea pea. And somewhere, and you'll probably only spot it when it moves, is one of the birds that's quite characteristic of the shingle, the ringed plover. It's a master of disguise. A sitting bird with its patterned feathers is almost impossible to see. And its eggs are so beautifully camouflaged that not even the robber gulls can spot them as they fly past. Both parents share the incubation and change over many times a day during the 24 to 25 days it takes the eggs to hatch. During the summer, the Chesil rings with the cries of terns. Having spent the winter footloose and fancy-free skimming over the oceans, they now settle down and are harnessed to the shingle to breed. Two species of tern nest on the Chesil. The common tern, with its black-tipped red beak and black-capped head, is the larger of the two. The 2 to 3 eggs are laid in a scrape on the shingle, or sometimes on small patches of vegetation, and take about 3 weeks to hatch. In early summer, the clamouring calls are at their loudest, as courtship and mating take place. Offering the female fish is an important part of the courtship ritual and helps to build up the pair bond which will hold them together during the breeding season. species of tern nesting here is our smallest and one of our rarest, the little tern. The male has to work hard building up the female's body reserves, as her clutch of eggs may account for half her weight. A tremendous investment on her part. The 1 to 3 eggs are carefully patterned to blend into the shingle background as protection against predators. The newly hatched chicks are exhausted. It may have taken them as long as 3 days to chip their way out of the egg. If bad weather prevents them from fishing, both parents sometimes leave the nest briefly, even when eggs are still hatching. It may seem surprising that they leave at this critical time, but their overriding instinct is to keep themselves alive. The chicks are well disguised, but have little protection against the elements. Wind, rain and cold can kill just as surely as any predator, and so the parents keep the chicks warm under their wings. If a chick carelessly tumbles out from under the sheltering feathers, the parent bird quickly gathers it back to safety. At this stage, the female remains to brood the newly hatched young, while the male little tern does all the fishing. The chicks are constantly demanding more food, and so the male has his work cut out for him. Even though many birds are calling at the same time, the parents seem to have no problem finding their own chicks. The law that protects all breeding birds gives special protection to the little terns, and a warden guards them on Chesil during the summer. However, the birds across the fleet at Abbotsbury enjoy care and management all year round. Swannery is the only breeding colony of swans in Great Britain. 400 years ago, this little cygnet would have been fattened up for the table like a Christmas turkey. But today, it'll be looked after, fed on grain and grass cuttings until September, when it's free to go. If it wasn't cared for, the chances are it would die. The Swannery has existed since Plantagenet times. Since 1543, these waters have belonged to the Strangways family. The swans, over 500 strong in the breeding season, nest on piles of reeds specially put out for them. The reed used comes from Abbotsbury itself. It's a valuable resource used locally for thatching, and so each year some is harvested. But patches are left standing for those birds which build their nests in older reed. After several years, this has to be burnt off, as if it's left, debris accumulates, and the reed is eventually taken over by willow and alder, so making it useless for reed-nesting birds. After only 3 months, the fresh green growth created by burning stands out strongly against the older reed, and in early summer the beds echo to the calls of migrant birds. The reed warbler's nest is a miracle of architecture. Built by the hen, the cup is woven around a few upright stems with no support under the nest itself. Sometimes new reed is included, and its growth may cause the nest to tilt dangerously. Even so, the nest is strong enough to hold a young cuckoo, which, in order to get undivided attention, will have turfed out the original eggs. The reed warbler is one of the birds most commonly victimized by the cuckoo. The patterns in the nestlings' throats and later their calls are just part of a constant parade of stimuli directed at the parents to encourage them to stay and care for their young. And that care includes keeping the nest clean and free from droppings. The hungry youngsters grow fast. A fortnight after hatching, they will be fully fledged, ready to leave the nest and fly. Their fledging is the satisfying end result of managing a habitat not only for commercial reasons, but also to allow creatures such as the reed warbler to raise their young under favourable conditions. The management technique used at the swannery has the same end in view, to raise the maximum number of healthy cygnets. But vastly different methods are used. The first step is to separate the parent birds from their own cygnets. These adults are not only going to rear their own young, but will also become foster parents to cygnets from other families. At this time, speed is of the essence, as foster parents and cygnets must be introduced to one another as quickly as possible. So, whilst young from other broods are collected, the adults are put into the rearing pens.
That's the one that might give us problems because he's squeaking.
Oh, you don't like when they squeak, do you?
Come on, then. Come on.
The cygnets are introduced to their foster parents at about 2 days old, before they've grown sufficiently to be recognised as alien and so rejected by the adult male.
All right. There we are. One more, then.
They get to one from you.
Sometimes they come out to touch, sometimes they don't. Just depends.
It's essential that they're all put into the pen at the same time and so accepted as one family. Each cygnet has to recognise the calls of the adult pair and react to them as though they were its own parents.
He hovers over the top, turns his head on one side. It means he doesn't like the look of them. I'll have to get the net and take them out. As long as the little ones all stay together, at the moment there's 4 and a 3 if you look.
Mm-hmm.
They'll stay together. It's very difficult for him to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Not all the cygnets are taken from their parents. Some are left in the wild. Their survival rate is very low. Out in the colony on the fleet, surrounded by a mass of birds, they easily get confused. And those poor cygnets which mistakenly approach the wrong parent or a non-breeding bird are dealt with severely, often drowned before they're 2 weeks old. Six weeks later, the cygnets in the pens are growing fast. Accepted by their foster parents, their chances of survival are very high. Periodically, the swans at Abbotsbury are rounded up to find out about their movements and survival rates. This happens during the molt when they're flightless, so they can be marked and identified more easily. Once they're caught, the opportunity is taken to collect as much data as possible. The whole operation is highly organised so that the swans are moved from point to point without delay. All sorts of measurements are taken.
180.
Everything from skull size to finding their weight. The main object of the roundup is to identify the swans. Most of the birds born at Abbotsbury carry a ring and the Ilchester mark, a harmless nick in the footweb. Others, not raised in pens or coming in from outside the fleet, may not be marked in any way. So they're ringed and the numbers of both new and old rings noted. Also, scientists are trying to discover whether there's any relationship between the size of the lump on the male's bill and the swan's age.
I'm not sure whether Philip has done those already, but he may want to. I don't know.
I didn't do those. Can you do them when they come out?
Yes, please.
Apart from marking and measuring, other tests are carried out. Blood tests have shown that the Abbotsbury colony of mute swans is unique. They have a rare enzyme in their blood, which may explain why they're more successful breeders than other mute swans in Britain. As soon as all its measurements are complete, each swan is released. All in all, Abbotsbury isn't a bad place to be if you're a swan. Here, their only enemies are natural ones, particularly during the molt when they're more vulnerable. And this is the successful end to a season's care and feeding. The 7 cygnets put in the pen in May, now 4 months older, are about to have their first taste of the wild. As the young swans settle into the colony, other birds are arriving to roost on the Chesil or feed in the fleet. Behind the apparent tranquility of life on the Chesil, the tern chicks face the killer hazards of driving rain, high tides and gale-force winds. They've now left the nest area and most hide by any stone, crouching immobile, waiting for their next feed. Others poke around, generally exploring, until they hear their parents calling. Each parent has an individual fish call, which the young have learnt and eagerly respond to. Even so, it's amazing amidst all the clamour of different calls that the parents manage to find their young. Unfortunately, although they're beautifully camouflaged, they still cannot escape the keen-eyed and keen-nosed predators. For every tern chick that survives, at least 2 will die, and many of those are picked off by predators. Conservationists agree that to look after wildlife, human interference should be kept to a minimum. But what do you do about natural predators? Should you actively manage an area and so discourage them? Or should you let nature keep the balance, picking off the sick and the slow? That's treating conservation as preservation, leaving an area where nature can take care of itself. Sometimes it works, but in other cases, as here, a helping hand is needed to make sure that at least some of the young birds survive. Even with that help, of all the little tern nests on Chesil, this chick is one of the few survivors.